But I keep being too caught up by all my demons, lost without the love, and I'm a slave to.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're well and safe. Welcome back to another episode of All Things Villa. But before watching today's video, if you could like it and subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it. Today, I'm joined by Tom Cowley. Tom, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. You, mate?
I'm really good, thank you. And Tom is the social media officer for Villa and Proud, an organisation which we will talk about in a minute. And we're going to be talking about the importance of equality, being inclusive, and how Tom is making small changes online in order to make Villa's online community a better place for all, essentially. So, Tom, first of all, to anyone who does not know what Villa and Proud is, essentially, what is Villa and Proud?
Okay, so Villa and Proud was set up about 18 months ago by Sam Timms, who's a Villa fan who is gay. So basically, Villa and Proud is our LGBT supporters network. We focus on inclusivity and just ensuring that, to be honest, everyone feels completely safe, secure, and welcome at Villa Park. So we'll focus on, we're an LGBT network, but we'll also discuss things about religion and race, and obviously things about Black Lives Matter at the moment. It's really quite topical. So we would be very supportive of anyone that we kind of consider minority, underrepresented, or someone that just needs support.
So, your role as a social media officer, what does that entail exactly?
So what I do is we have our committee meetings sort of monthly, and I'll go through what I think is sort of our social media strategy. So, for example, we had Pride Month last month.
Yeah.
So throughout June, we had a campaign called Villa Allies. I don't know if you saw it, where we'd push this idea that because we think it's quite important that if you just talk at people and you say, you know, there's issues with homophobia, there's issues with racism. The most important thing for us, and especially me, I consider it really important to push this idea that, for example, a straight person could be an ally to LGBT people, a white person can be an ally to other racial minorities, and it's kind of it was focused around making kind of people feel like superheroes. Really was the kind of language we used, to say, actually, if you're out here and you're helping us, it's a heroic thing to do. You're doing a good thing that you don't have to do. So we were just discussing how to be an ally, what is an ally, how to be an effective ally, and we had the support of quite a few people across social media and at Villa as a club. So it was really, really positive.
What first attracted you to this role? And when you first saw this role available, did you believe that at first you had the capabilities to fulfill its needs?
So I saw it advertised on social media. I saw it advertised on Twitter, which is a platform I've used quite extensively for quite a long time. So I started going back to the beginning last spring. I really opened up to Twitter about my mental health struggles that I was having.
I'm sorry to hear
which
that.
was mainly, it's fine. You know, mainly it was I didn't have anywhere particularly to go kind of in my sort of real world circle. That's how it felt at the time. So the community that I had was Villa. So I opened up to Villa Twitter, and one thing led to another, and I just ended up starting a blog where people share their experiences, because I think it's quite important for people to work together and to similar struggles to them, so you feel less alone. If you know that people have got a similar experience and people as well have come out the other side of that, I think it's quite important for helping people push through their struggles. But anyway, so I did that, and I've also written quite a lot about LGBT issues as part of that. So when I saw that Villa and Proud were doing the work they're doing, I really wanted to be a part of it. And they wanted a social media officer, and I thought, you know what, why not give it a go? And they came back to me, and I got the role.
So looking specifically then at Villa and Proud, I have the motto in front of me, and it says, working together to make football everyone's game. A fantastic motto, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it sums it up to a T, what we want to do, really. like I said earlier, we don't want to push this idea of LGBT this, LGBT that, and kind of make it. We don't want it to be combative. We want it to be cooperative, basically. So we want to say, at the end of the day, how would you want to feel at the football, and how do you think we can make everyone feel as included as you would like to be? So that's it. That's all it is, really. It's just about equality, inclusion, and making everyone feel welcome.
So, as your role in this organisation is a social media officer, how do you create these posts in order to convey these messages correctly?
Yeah, so it's important to make sure that we're conveying it properly through like the language that we're using, and the if I was out there pushing aggressive agendas or something on my social media, it doesn't fit with what we're trying to achieve. It's about trying to approach people and start a dialogue, really. So if you see, I don't know if you saw when, for example, Villa put out their support with a picture of our banner, and
Yeah,
they said, they stand with us on Pride Month, and there was one or two negative comments, but either you look at them and sometimes it's accounts that they're quite clearly trolling,
yeah.
they get a kick out of that, so you ignore them. But equally, some people, if people genuinely don't understand, it's about education, but not in a patronizing way. About asking people why do you feel like that, and how can we change that, and how do you think we can all be included and treated the same?
Mm. So, looking at the future, then, how do you plan to grow this organisation? Because, of course, moving on in the future, you have to adapt to a new normal or a new circumstance that potentially may be so.
Yeah, so I can only really speak for myself, but we're looking at things to do with, so obviously because my two areas that I've covered are LGBT issues and mental health. So we're looking at, for example, LGBT people are far more likely to suffer from mental health issues, and there's various, probably, people have different ideas about what the reasons for that are, but it can be anything from social pressure and not feeling like you'll be accepted by your family and things like that. So I think the next kind of step for us is trying to, again, create this inclusive environment, but maybe do workshops or events or a podcast, or there's all these different ideas that we float about, that anything that really will help spread this positive message that keeps everyone feeling included, and they're like they're not alone, and like, so they know that, for example, if their family doesn't support them, if their friends don't support them, or even if they do, that they've got us to go to, and we'll always be there as people that are inclusive, open, honest, and just welcoming.
So, you said that Villa and Proud is an influential organisation currently, and in my opinion, will continue to be so due to the fact that you said there is still currently hate for race, religion, etc., isn't there?
Yeah, so there were statistics put out by the BBC quite recently, showing that hate crime, especially at sports like football, is actually on the rise, or reported hate crime is on the rise. So it's a case of, we get asked quite often, why do you do this? Because racism, homophobia is a thing of the past. And my response to that would be, arguably, yes, say legally, there are things in place that give us equality, but the general, even casual racism, casual homophobia, you hear discriminatory language at games and in the street, and you see it on social media all the time. And while that continues, I think organisations like ours will always be relevant. But our aim, really, as an organisation, is to get to a stage where people don't actually need organisations like us. Because if we get to a stage where nobody needs us to support them, then that means we've achieved what we want to, and we've achieved this equality that we're asking for.
I think what you've said so far has been perfect. And the fact that you haven't restricted your audience to a country or a county has been brilliant, because it's important for an organisation like yourselves to connect to as many people as you can in potentially as many countries. So how important is it to connect to that foreign audience, potentially someone from like in America, Australia, someone from anywhere who they can turn to you for support? can't they?
Yeah, so yeah, that's why we call ourselves a network rather than a supporters group, because it's just important that, because I think a group seems very shut off. I think
Yeah.
where a network is, we're saying we're encouraging people to reach out to us, and we've got members in America, in Australia, across the world, and being in this 21st century situation we're in, especially actually at the minute with the coronavirus situation, it's really pushing people online and to things like Zoom and conference calling as well. So we've been doing we've had pre-match socials online on Zoom, where people from across the world can join us, obviously time zone permitting, but we've had people from up and down the country and from America and further afield as well. And it's about making sure all of these people feel completely included, that they support. If you're in America, you still support Aston Villa. You may be from afar, but I know plenty of Americans that probably are as big, if not bigger, fans than even I am. And I think it's really important that we make sure that as a Villa family, we don't exclude anybody, even if the geographical situation makes that challenging.
I would like to share with you another quote which you use as your Twitter banner. It's in front of me now, so I will read it out. It's by Paul McGrath. He said that football is a place where we can all come together to support the team. Allies, as you said, are important to show that no matter what race or religion, sexuality or gender, everyone is welcome at Aston Villa. And the diversity of the club, like the city of Birmingham, is what makes it so special. Again, another fantastic quote which just summarizes how important, again, an organization like yourselves is. And it's great to have that support from someone such as Paul McGrath.
Yeah, he's absolutely hit the nail on the head there, to be honest. I couldn't say it any better. So we reached out for him to him in June for support with our Villa Allies campaign, and he was absolutely fully on board. And for us, it's massive to have someone that I think everyone considers a hero, God to us Villa fans, and it really helps us to grow. But the growth isn't for us. Again, it's the most important thing for me is Paul McGrath has a quote. He shares it on his social media. We share it on ours, and it has a wider reach, and more people that may not have even heard of us can find out about what we do and get involved, and it might just really have a positive impact on people's lives. That's the aim that I've got, really.
What other messages of support have you had from potentially big names or just generally just nice comments?
Yeah, so some of our biggest allies, so Dan Bardell from the Villa View has been really supportive of us for a long time, and he was very supportive of me personally with my blog and my mental health campaign. And we've had comments from Heart of the Holt as well as a blog. They're huge allies for us, being really supportive. And again, and like you say, it's not just the sort of big names. It's Villa fans generally. I get comments quite often supporting me if I'm going through difficult times, and we get people that always ask us about how we do what we do and how they can get involved, and even sometimes people saying how much we've helped them, which for me is again the most important thing. But it's that network. I think when I'm struggling and I have people that turn around to me and ask me how I'm doing and offer me support, that makes me realize how important it is for other people to have the same.
Do you believe that potentially we should have, or people should have created these organisations earlier to help more people?
Yeah, to be honest, it's the sort of thing that we needed 20, 30 years ago. At the time, you look at Justin Fashanu, for
Yeah.
example. He was racially and homophobically abused, and he ended up taking his own life. And he didn't feel like he had any support. And I think, and every LGBT issues, race issues, and things like that, they're not a recent thing at all. Gay people haven't come about in the last however long. There's always been gay people, lesbian people, transgender people, all LGBT people, and especially at a time where we had no legal rights, I think it would have been far more important. But obviously, it's so difficult in a situation that's a lot more hostile, and we still see that in other countries today. and to an extent in communities in this country and in certain towns and places like that, that maybe people don't feel quite so welcome. Like even like, for example, where I am at the minute, they're accepting, but there's not a big gay community, for example, and people still feel alone. And I think, like you say, there's always been that need. But I think we're just lucky now that we're able to do something about it and that we can get the support from quite a diverse group of people.
So specifically, how can people contact Villa and Proud?
So you can contact us on various social media, on Twitter. We're at Villa and Proud. Instagram's the same. We've got a Facebook group as well. And also you can always contact me personally on Twitter. I've got an email address and a join link in my Twitter bio. And I'm always happy to talk to anybody.
So it is hard in this current climate to connect with Villa fans one-on-one. Did you have plans for this year that you potentially had to put on hold due to the coronavirus?
Yeah, we've been planning a lot of things with the club and with fan groups and things like that. But to be honest, it's helped us in a way to move and change our perspective, at least in the short term. To, like, for example, if it wasn't for football being held behind closed doors, we wouldn't have ever done our pre-match socials, which I think we've got quite a lot out of on Zoom. And it takes away some aspects of what we do, and it makes a lot of things a lot more difficult. But it's also enabled us to really reach people from far more diverse kind of locations and far more distant locations. And for example, it's helped us focus on some of our international members and Villa fans who maybe would otherwise have been forgotten.
With there being less contact as well during these times, organisations such as yourselves are even more important due to the fact that social media is flourishing, it continues to flourish, and people can contact yourself and other members of the group via messages, if you like.
Yeah, definitely. And during lockdown, I know it's done had a few issues for people where your social life might be based around work or going to the pub or going to the football. And if you're stuck at home, some people by themselves, it can get really lonely, and that's when people's mental health can really struggle. Because and I think it's important for people to understand that while not everyone necessarily has a mental illness, everyone does have mental health, and it's in the same way that everyone has physical health. And socializing with people is really important to maintain good mental health. And if you're not careful and you allow your mental health to slip, then you can start having some real issues with mental illness. So again, it's so important for people to contact, and not even just us. There's various groups across the country, and we've got, for example, the LGBT Switchboard. Samaritans do really good things, and there's mental health charities like Mind that are doing amazing work. That
Yeah.
if people feel alone, there are a lot of places they can go, and I think sometimes people don't realise how many options they do have.
So for anyone who is struggling to or not wanting to communicate with others, potentially the return of football could come as a good topic of conversation with, of course, Aston Villa currently fighting for their lives in the Premier League. How are you, as an organisation, promoting and cheering on the boys in claret and blue via your social medias?
Yeah, so we our very first port of call is the fact that we are Villa fans. That is our main message. We are still a Villa supporters network. So we will post about the games, ask people for score predictions, post clips and pictures and things like that, and just trying to keep Villa fans interacting with us, because, like you say, the football is quite a needed distraction for a lot of people. And I think if we it's a positive message that we're portraying, but if we're always talking about serious topics, it can be quite difficult. Where I think sometimes if we can at least try and push a positive view of the sport that's happening and what unites us all as Villa fans, it can be really important for people, and it can really make a difference.
So social media at times can be positive and Villa fans could share their thoughts and opinions on certain topics, but when it does turn negative and tense and the atmosphere is hostile, your role as a social media officer, what would you do next? How would you classify or say when someone has crossed a line, essentially?
Yeah, okay. It's really important to call people out whenever they cross a line. For example, if you see somebody um, trolling, abusing somebody else, or even like we've seen it recently with some of our players have been receiving a lot of abuse or just general stick online. And I think it's important for everyone to kind of rally around the people that receive these kind of abusive messages and try and really highlight that it's not right, it's not acceptable. Um, and I think for me, that's a main thing. If anyone's receiving abuse, they can again contact me, and we can help deal with it. We know people that will help deal with it, that know how to contact the club if that's what's necessary. Contact social media organisations, and it's the same as social media. It's the same as is real world. If people feel alone, then it's going to really impact them. So it's all about being an ally to each other and rallying around and highlighting the fact that we are all a family.
So talking about the fundamental part of your organisation, which is that you're Villa fans, I think it's only fair to get your predictions for where you think Aston Villa are going to finish at the end of the season.
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Really, it all depends for me on the next couple of games. I think obviously Watford are playing as we're talking now against Norwich, and I think if they get a result there, we're gonna struggle. But I don't think we won't be defined by the Man United result, whatever that is.
No,
For me, yeah, and for me, it's Palace that's the game. If we get anything other than a win, then we're going to really struggle. But if we beat Palace, then I think we're in with a shout, because we've got then after that another 3 games, I think, and we'll probably be hopefully within a point or two of Watford, and we've got West Ham coming up. They've got West Ham coming up. We've got Everton, who, in my opinion, by that point will probably be mid-table. They'll be safe, not much to play for. We could get a result out of them. So it will. I think it'll go down to the last day, and I don't think anyone can predict it, to be honest.
Well, those are Tom's thoughts. Make sure you leave your comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the Total Villain. Thanks, Tom. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, to everyone who is watching, stay safe, stay well, and up the Villa.
What I keep being tuned, could I buy all my